I wrote this book because I wanted to bring awareness to the issue of domestic violence within the Black community. I also wanted to challenge ideas of the far left around victim culture and what that means for those who are truly victims and the ways in which we define this. I'm going to begin with a reading from the chapter titled The Death of a Sidechick. To give you guys some context, my lead character Maya in my novella has recently lost both of her parents. She has gone through an extremely abusive relationship with the father of her children, and is immersed in a culture that is ultimately detrimental to her. So let's begin. The death of a sidechick. That's not love to me. At the end of their relationship, he does not end up with Maya. He ends up with Denisha, or so Maya thinks. Maya cannot begin to understand the dynamics of a strictly sexual relationship. So for her, the person Q is fucking is who he is with. It seems like the end of their relationship meant nothing to him, like Maya meant nothing to him. She is blocking his calls and taking off with the children, and Q cannot reach her. He has been trying to reach her every day since she left. In this instance, she momentarily believes the side girl is better off than the main girl. Q did not beat Denisha down. She did not have to deal with his temper, his rage, or his insults. Denisha never had to face his rudeness and meanness, and all that negative garbage he used to pollute Maya's world day after day. A year ago, Q kicked Maya down in front of strangers and ended up in his apartment with some side chick in his bed. Where else? While Maya went home beaten and embarrassed to an empty bed full of painful memories, she nursed her wounds quietly before her children woke up for breakfast. Maya wouldn't let Q near her after the death of her mother. Unfortunately, all Q wanted to do was comfort and console her and try to make amends for the ways he had hurt her. Who knows what delusions Q held? But if he thought this was love, Maya held no reservations. She knew it wasn't love. To call it that would be insanity. She cringed in the morning, remembering the night last year when she was kicked to the floor and shoved down the hall at a party. No one helped her. Instead, they asked her to get out as she got her bearings. Q continued to call her a dumb bitch in front of her friend. He offered her no hand to help her up from the ground that he had kicked her to. Then she left and he left. She was not the brightest of the bunch, but she knew love was not abusive. She knew that love did not abandon you and cheat on you and beat you. The incident that occurred at last year's party was a twist of fate. They both ended up at the same party, not intentionally, but by chance. Maya stopped sleeping on their mattress. It disturbed her. Q stopped being consistent with the children. Maya had so much junk floating through her head that reality became hard for her to manage. She began to drink more than usual, and killing Q's mistresses seemed like the next logical step. So a year later, when the opportunity presented itself, by that same twisted fate, she finds herself at a party with Denisha. Maya's reasoning is simple, logical, and clear. You don't care about my life and the effects you're having on me, so I won't care about you or yours. What ignites Maya's fragile mind is her intolerance for people who aren't compassionate. Maya's mind, being quite fragile and mixed with her fiery spirit, is capable of anything. When Maya got the call that Q was in jail last year and that the police found him in bed with his quote-unquote girlfriend, she knew it wasn't her. For one, she didn't have an address for Q and wasn't allowed to go to his house. She only took his abuse for 7 years and bore him 3 children. That was a year ago, and Maya is unprepared for the rush of anger she feels after hearing that Q is sleeping with Denisha. That rage returns when she sees her at the club. She double checks the picture Andrew sent to her phone earlier. It's her. The most recent news Maya heard on the grapevine via Andrew is that Q was in a fiasco with not one, but two. Unfortunately, the news came to her from quite possibly the last person she would have wanted to know. She left Andrew years ago for Q, for this. Maya stares at Denisha sheepishly. Maya is strong, a resilient woman, but this turn of events still broke off another piece of her heart. It only made it worse to hear the morning Q was arrested that he was in bed with his side girl when he was supposed to take his sons to daycare, but instead ignored her call. Maya could not digest that his side girl took priority over his children, and she began to drink more. When Q said they all knew about Maya but didn't care about her feelings or how things could hurt her, Maya snapped. She snapped on the inside. Maya didn't intend for this to happen at a party, but she didn't have a choice. She is watching Denisha, pretending to have a good time, leaning against the bar. All Maya can think is, this is the girl he kissed. This is the girl who slept in his bed. Maya feels around for the prescription drugs she took from her mother's home a month ago. She knew she would need them for something, but she didn't anticipate this. The music is getting louder. This, mixed with pressure from the alcohol to make bad decisions, encourages Maya to do what she shouldn't do, what she normally wouldn't. Denisha orders another drink. She doesn't notice Maya standing next to the bar, patiently waiting. Someone calls her name. Denisha, they holler. Denisha walks away from the bar and the bartender sets the drink down. Maya has been prepared all night. Her eyes are darting back and forth through the room, looking for anyone who might be paying attention to her. There is no one, so she quickly slips the Vicodin into Denisha's drink. There is no way for Maya to have known that Denisha had just taken MDMA before coming to the club, and that she just sniffed coke from her locket stash in the bathroom. Denisha stumbles around, looking slightly disheveled, but Maya chalks it up to the alcohol. Denisha, flying high as the booze travels through her veins, with the MDMA widening her eyes and the coke riveting her body into electronic waves, doesn't realize she's fucked. Denisha returns and Maya slips away to another corner of the room. From a small nook in between the walls, she waits like a wallflower for the medicine to kick in. As she is waiting, she reflects on the rules. Current rap culture, which is arguably black culture, has rules about side chicks and main chicks. And Maya realizes that she has been a product of unhealthy living her entire life. How did she even know the rules? Because in many ways, Maya is a product of her culture. The irony is that she doesn't even like rap or hip hop, but she is still black, poor, and parentless, and therefore part of the culture. The music continues blaring. I have a side chick, but I never kiss her. I never hold her hand. This makes Maya want to break down right then and there, and she almost loses sight of Denisha. Denisha is bumping and grinding with another girl, and from the snippets of conversation she has overheard, Maya thinks her name is Penny. Too much has happened since my homie spoke his last words, and she doesn't make the connection. Maya is a product of her environment to some degree, and all of these rules and cultural norms within her community cause her to react with violence. She spitefully recalls the day She spitefully recalls the day Q told her about the other women. Did you kiss her? Maya asked. Subconsciously, she knew that the kiss was the deciding factor. When Q replied yes, her bottom lip quivered, but she persisted. She wanted to get upset. She needed a good reason to break free from Q without having to worry about him coming after her. They had discussed that if Maya ever found out he was cheating, she was free to go. Now the reader might ask, why not include physical abuse and violence in that contract too? A narrator's quick response, Maya did not know the person she trusted the most would betray her, nor did she understand the paralyzing effect fear can have on a person's ability to mobilize and leave a bad situation. The constant threat of losing her kids to Children's Aid loomed over her head, and she ached like a sore thumb. Q knew this and used it to his advantage, knowing that she would remain silent to avoid conflict with police officers, social workers, and judges. The threat and fear of losing her children kept Maya in a box with a lock, and Q held on tight to the key. Open mouth? She asked, not because it would hurt her, but because it would give her the fuel she needed to burn her relationship with Q to the ground. Yep, he said smugly. She didn't even wait for him to finish speaking. The word had barely escaped his lip when she jumped in. It's done. We're over. She was crying, yet relieved about the freedom. Well, I know. Q's voice trailed off in the distance as she sized up what this meant for her and the future of her children. Maya had already hung up the phone. She continued drinking. Denisha begins to waver on the dance floor. Her movements are sloppy and uncoordinated. Her girlfriends who accompanied her to the party are too fucked up on narcotics to notice their friend is a minute away from collapsing. Denisha is a product of urban Black culture too. But how was Maya supposed to know that? All she sees is the girl who was supposed to be her sister in the struggle, blatantly hating Maya, most likely because she didn't have the capacity to be compassionate. Denisha was not intelligent, just mean and stupid. Denisha can barely control her movements. Her legs have turned to cement, and she can feel herself going down. That was only my second drink, she thinks sleepily, not realizing that her body has already seized up on the floor. Oh shit, she thinks, looking up at friends who were never really friends. Is this really how it's going to end for me? She lies there, conscious but unable to move, patiently waiting for someone to trample her to death. She takes a moment to recall all the men she slept with who never wanted a relationship, and all the pillows she soaked at night with tears because she just wanted to be loved. She doesn't even remember Q because he is not one of the niggas she doesn't even remember Q because he is one of the niggas that she would like to forget. He was terrible to her. He would have sex with her without a condom and then turn around without a word. She would leave and he wouldn't even say goodbye. So as she lay there waiting to die, unable to speak or roll over, she thought of the only man she ever loved, back when he was just a young man, Andrew. Maya is delighted as she watches Denisha drop to the ground, knowing that she won't get back up. The dance floor, if you can call it that, is packed, and everyone is jumping and stomping and waving their hands. If the Vicodin doesn't kill her, the blows to the gut and the face sure will. Maya thinks happily to herself, smiling and sipping her green goddess cocktail. Maya decides to drive home once her cocktail is done. By this time, Denisha is dying, and no one notices. The scene is bloody, horrific, and pathetic, rolled into one, as her head is kicked around the floor like a soccer ball. Women step on her gut, some thin and others over 200 pounds. Her ribs cracked, her spine bends and twists beyond repair. The party continues on until 5 a.m., but Denisha isn't discovered until closer to 6 a.m., when the room has cleared out and someone has turned the lights back on. Maya took off for home hours ago, and not even Denisha's friends seem to understand the role they have played in her grisly death. Upon discovery of Denisha's body, they cannot immediately identify her. Her neck is severely broken, and people have smeared her blood across the dance floor. Hey, I know that chick, a 20-something-year-old guy says as he walks by with his friends to observe the scene. I slept with her a couple months ago. Had to cut her off because she asked me to take her out. His friends roar with laughter and saunter off to eat some early morning steak at T-Bones in Scarborough. The guy who hosted the event realizes he knows her too. A lot of men do, and he shakes his head sadly. He winces when he sees that someone pulled her panties down and no one bothered to cover her up. When the police officers arrive on scene, the first thing the officer does is cover up Denisha's body. Has anyone identified this woman? No one comes forward or even responds. They all know better than to talk to the police, despite the leverage they could gain out of a relationship with them. Okay, he says acceptingly. They continue to bag her and take her away. Maya is home, curled up on her grayish-white plush couch. She is comfortable, with her hair in a bun and her army reading glasses on. She is happy too. Since she officially kicked Q out of her apartment, she has been spending her weekends alone. She has been dropping the kids off to her Aunt Geraldine's house, which is her mother's sister, on Friday nights, and picking them up on Sunday evenings. This has given Maya all the time she needs to heal, nurture herself, love herself, and grow. June 22nd, 2013, diary entry. Today I am working on my scars, my internal scars and my external scars. I am sharing this information with you because, dear journal, you have been one of the only consistent things in my life. You are my favorite noun. You are my nun. And when you are complete with all the best parts of me, I will pass you on to my daughter, Maya. The victim's blood has smeared onto the shoes of the small crowd that remains. Since our culture values possessions more than people, the crowd is more incited by the blood on their shoes than the death of Denisha. In a culture that is saturated with a blame the victim mentality, rampant with shallowness and void of depth, herds flock to follow the trend, and everyone adopts the neo-modern cool attitude of, I just don't give a fuck, and I could care less, while creating Kickstarter campaigns for causes that they care deeply about. When Andrew hears through the grapevine that Denisha is dead, that she was trampled to death at a nightclub, he wonders why she was there and not home studying like the rest of the good girls. He sympathizes because he knows that when a female is searching for love, she can irreversibly harm herself in the process. He begins to wonder what it will take for women and men to heal. And he remembers what Maya taught him when they were 14 and they used to read the dictionary together for fun. That's why he loved her and why he continues to love her, because she is the smartest person he has ever met. And he knows that her love is deep like the ocean. Maya can go to parts that others dare not to tread. The pressure of this depth could crush the bones of men, but Maya can survive there. 15 years ago, Maya and Andrew, then Chloe, were reading the dictionary and Maya asked him, "What do you think love looks like?" Andrew thought she resembled a bronze-skinned goddess. "It looks like you," he said. Q doesn't think about Denisha's death so much as he considers the pain he caused her. He hopes his daughters never meet a guy like him. When Q hears the news about Denisha, he is eating at his favorite spot on Ellesmere Road, China Cottage. "I can't believe it. I just hit that, like, last week." Q frowns. Life has been morbid for him lately. Yeah, wow. Wasser is finishing up his plate and thinking about Suriname, and Q begins to think about his daughter. "I'm going to try and go by Maya's." "Yeah, you need to." They both sit there in a strange but comfortable silence. "You want a lift?" Wasser asks. Q parked his car at Maya's house with the intent of seeing her and his children, but he lacked the courage to do so. "No, I think I should walk and clear my head." Wasser passes Q the blunt for the long walk, and they part ways without saying goodbye because they know they are bound to see each other again. Q isn't sure, but as he approaches his car, he becomes more certain that someone is standing next to the passenger side. It looks like the same guy he met a few weeks earlier, the guy who handed him a picture of Maya and then vanished into thin air. "Hello again, Quentin." "It's good to see you. How's Maya?" The man is smiling, either smiling or grinning. Q can't tell. "Who the fuck are you and what the fuck do you want?" The man stares calmly at Q, as if to sum up the man he has become. "I want to speak to you about your mother." He pauses and presses his lips together. "My mother is dead. She killed herself. Did you know her?" Q squints his eyes and nestles into the cold, desolate part of himself he has reserved for women. "I did know her," the man blandly replies. "Could you step aside? I need to get into my car." "Maya's nothing like your mother." The man is leaning against Q's car now, getting comfortable. "I know." Although Q doesn't know him, he feels something. a comfort, like the sound his hands make when they're sliding across the steering wheel as he drives through the quiet in the middle of the night. It's late in the evening and they are both standing there looking at each other. We all make mistakes. It's no big deal. We fuck up, we mess up, we hurt each other. But then we learn, we grow, and we move on. He is looking at Q to see if he is listening. That's healthy. That's what life looks like, Quentin. All relationships are forgiveness. You don't get 25 years with someone without forgiveness. Q listens deeply because no one has ever taken the time to explain what healthy should be. Maya's the real deal. She's all types of love with no conditions. Q doesn't understand. Who is this guy? And where did he get this information? Maybe he's some type of spirit guru or something, Q decides. Love? I don't know. Q begins to speak, but he is quickly cut off. I know you don't know. It's okay. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. I know that you don't know. It's okay. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. Q drops his pack of cigarettes and bends down to pick it up. He considers what it felt like when he found out his mother had slit her wrist while he was still at school. For the slightest moment, he remembers feeling like she didn't love herself, like you weren't even an option. Neither was I. The man answers Q's question before he asks it. And by the time Q picks up his pack of cigarettes, the man is gone, and Q is left standing beside his car. Thank you so much.